We've got a great guest for you guys today. Mikey Weinstein is a former Air Force officer, White House legal counsel in the Reagan Administration. More recently, in 2006, he founded the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring that members of the United States Armed Forces receive their constitutional guarantee of religious freedom. You might have seen him in a recent brawl with Bill O'Reilly, a verbal brawl. Okay, and he's got two books in 2006 with God on Our Side, One Man's War Against an Evangelical Coup in America's Military. And in 2012, his latest book was No Snowflake in an Avalanche, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, its battle to defend the Constitution and one family's courageous war against religious extremism in high places. Mikey, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Cenk. Thank you.
All right. What'd you do to poor O'Reilly to get him all pissed off?
I don't think it takes very much. I'd like to say he made a pass at me, and then I was going to file a sexual harassment suit, but then they were going to pay me a big settlement. But we don't need to go there. So apparently, I brought.
I don't think you're his type, but
no, I hope not. He, in a recent interview involving a matter at Guantanamo Bay that happened during the holiday season, involving a couple of unconstitutionally placed nativity scenes that we were able to get removed to the chapel, which is where they need to be, and they can actually be seen by more people. He, I guess, held me responsible for that horrible part of the war on Christmas, and then in the process called our clients. In that case, we had 18 members of the military. Some of them have received the Silver Star in combat. Some of them are special ops folks. 11 of the 18 happen to be Christians, I might add. 11 or 12, I forget the exact number now. But he called them cowards because they wouldn't show their faces and come on his show, you know, the O'Reilly show. At that point, I simply reminded him that, I think he ran off to the University of London during Vietnam. Whatever it was, I think he was, I made it clear that at least our clients were serving. I said, don't call our clients cowards. He got very upset, and then he held up his pen, never done better than was done with you guys on your parody, and said that he had covered 4 wars with his pen, and I pretty much lost it. And I think he promised he would give me the last 20 seconds, and then he broke the promise and screamed, cut off that weasel and bloviator's microphone, so they weren't able to hear me say what I was thinking, what he really was. And
so to give us what Fox News wouldn't allow you to say.
Fuck you, Bill O'Reilly. You're a
that's clear.
You're a coward. You're a I forget whatever else was going through my mind, but he was absolutely in every possible way a it's evil when you say the things he said about our members of the military, and don't sit there and tell me. I mean, at least, he's no Ernie Pyle. I mean, Al Gore was under fire in Vietnam. Don't go and say that you covered wars. When you were sitting in your bathtub, with a mint julep, smoking a cigar, watching the feed coming in from some TV show or listening to the radio. That was opprobrious. It was disgusting. It was Bill O'Reilly.
So tell me about the breadth of it in your experience, and what they actually believe.
What I'm going to try to do is to answer the question first before I give you. We have numbers as best as we can get them. You have to remember that Hitler had only 7.9% roughly in his National Socialist movement at its zenith, and look what he did. Stalin had 2.8, 2.9% in his movement. The Dominionist movement in the U.S. military, our best estimate is somewhere between 28 and 34%. Now, when I say
Jesus. Wait. Where do you get those numbers? Because that's a giant number.
These are numbers that we've, it's been a 10th of a century we've been in this business. If you ask an orthopedic surgeon, how many ways does an arm break? It's the law of big numbers. We see it constantly over and over. We have people talking to us every hour of every day. I mean, I'm getting emails and texts right now because I've got both my phones on vibrate. It just never stops. The law of big numbers. The chaplaincy, we believe, according to our chaplain clients that are in there, it's about 84% evangelical, and about a third of those are Dominionists. The difference, by the way, one of our biggest growth areas are evangelical members of the Christian faith. They are on our staff, our advisory board. They donate to us. They're clients. They're fine. The difference is every fundamentalist, or its synonym, Dominionist, is an evangelical by necessity, but not vice versa. When you cross the time, place, and manner line for proselytizing as an evangelical, that's when you become a Dominionist. You really can't scream Jesus in a crowded theater. The rest of the time we will support you. You have to also remember that when you graduate as a second lieutenant from one of the academies, or an ensign in the Navy at Annapolis, or from ROTC, or from Officers Candidate School, Officer Training School, the day that you graduate, you roughly outrank 85 to 90% of the rest of the military because of the rank structure. So it's literally enormous. Two of our biggest stories were terrifying. One feeds right into something that you said. You probably have heard of them. The first one that went viral for us was the Jesus Rifles story, when we had 136 United States Marines from Iraq and Afghanistan, mostly Afghanistan, come to us because it turned out the scopes on all of our rifles were embedded in the metal base were biblical quotations from the book of, I think it was Mark, John, Matthew, and Revelations, just right in there, because it came from a company like, think Chick-fil-A, but a defense contractor, called Trigicon in Michigan, and they had put those in there. You can imagine when we had a Marine, force recon guy, these are the toughest Marines, say they're going into a Ville, and 90% of Afghanistan is illiterate per se, but you have the village elders coming out saying, can we see your Jesus rifle, and why is that there? Can you, the symbology, and each of the quotations had something to do with the scope that was made to go on the rifles. It took 36 to 48 hours before Petraeus, at the time was the leader there, said, we got to stop this. The Church of England came out to support us. It turned out all of our NATO allies had the same rifles, so did the Israeli Defense Forces.
That's ironic.
And then we've had many stories go viral. The one that terrified me the most, because I think this is what you're asking, the people we're fighting want to use our nukes to blow the world up, because that'll serve as an accelerant or lubricant to bring their weapons-grade version of Jesus back. And they're basically promised a 200-mile-long river. Here's a graphic for you, 4.5 feet deep, filled with nothing but the human blood of those that their version of Jesus is slaughtered at the Battle of Armageddon. And they'll put on that happy fundamentalist face saying, therefore, my Christian brothers and sisters, rejoice, for the worst is yet to come. But we had the Jesus nuke story that broke, I think it was 2011, 68 United States Air Force nuclear missile launch officers, like the 34 or 38 last week that got caught cheating on those tests that made all the news, came to us, 62 of them practicing Roman Catholics or Protestants, because they were tired of being indoctrinated in a training session that basically used St. Augustine's just war theory, indicating that it was called Jesus wants you to use your nuclear weapons. We couldn't believe it. We were able, through one of our clients, to get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that was being used. Unbelievable. It's on our website, militaryreligiousfreedom.org, and there are big pictures of Jesus on a white horse, quoting Revelation 19:11, the book of Timothy, the book of Hebrews. The final endorser of this program was a decorated Nazi SS war hero by the name of Werner von Braun, who said, we brought our rocket technology to America at the end of World War II. Remember, he used a lot of Jewish slave labor in his underground rocket laboratories because we wanted to bring it to a Bible-based society. The military cut the training in about, I think it was 48 hours, and that's important for us. And they admitted they'd been doing it for 15 or 20 years. They've been going on for 25 years. It also included faces of the dead from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We broke the story right before the anniversary of those bombings, and that didn't go over too well with the Japanese. So, you just can't, I can go on and on.
But if I'm Barack Obama, if I was George H.W. Bush, if I was Bill Clinton, once I find out the severity of this, I mean, because this is not something you're making up. These are like, we know that there was the Jesus Rifles. We know that there was that seminar that they did for a long time.
Oh, there are many other stories.
Right, and we know what General Boykin said. It's on tape.
Right.
So why don't they root it out and go, are you guys insane? That's not what we do. This is the United States of America. It says right there in the First Amendment that everybody's got enough freedom of religion. You can't put your religion on other people. You're doing the same thing as the Taliban are. Why don't they put an end to it?
It's a great question. It's not just the separation of church and state that exists in the First Amendment, and that wasn't, remember the Bill of Rights wasn't passed until March of 1791, 15 months after the body of the Constitution was passed, which includes Clause 3, Article 6. We're both lawyers, but most lawyers aren't even aware of that. That says we will never have a religious test for any position in the federal government. We can't get to them, or they're not paying attention. Our foundation hired a very well-known lobbyist for a year in Washington to try to help us in accordance with all the regulations to get attention on the Hill. And when finally the lobbyist came back and said, "Don't fire me," I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Mikey, no one's going to touch this. They're terrified of losing evangelical Christian vote and money, votes and money. They're not going to touch it." It's extraordinarily serious when you realize that the U.S. military, no kidding, is the technologically most lethal organization ever created by humankind. There's a reason that we have 4-star admirals and generals that are clients and supporters. In some cases, they'll contact me and have us intervene so that they don't have to take the heat for doing it. The Bill of Rights was passed not for the convenience of the majority, Cenk, but to protect the minority from the expected tyranny of the majority. And when you stand up to a military superior for your religious rights, what you often see is the tyranny of the majority morphing into the tantrum of the majority. And nobody can hurt you the way a military superior can. We've had 13 of our clients KIA downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan. The attack in Benghazi took out one of our most treasured advisory board members. You know, Mike Farrell's on our advisory board. Well, so was Glenn Doherty, one of the 2 Navy SEALs killed in that attack. And an Irish Catholic kid from Boston. When that happened, and I had spoken to him right before he went over there, and he was one of our best fundraisers. He was one of our best, he handled Camp Pendleton. He handled a big area for us, and we will never be able to fill the hole that that impacted us with his tragic death and the violence there. He took a bunch of them out before they hit him with an RPG. So I know that he went down as a warrior, but there's a reason that he was with us, because he saw it and he knew it was there. And as I mentioned, the closer you get to the actual violence of combat, the more dominionism you see.
I've never actually, I don't think, had a discussion with a real life dominionist, right? And
Yeah.
so when we talk about it, again, the reaction that we'll get back oftentimes is, guys, they don't actually believe that. Like, that's what people will say all the time.
I know.
Because they feel like no one could actually believe that. I mean, they don't really want almost everyone on the planet to die and Armageddon to come and only 440,000 people, or no, 144,000 people
Right.
to survive. That means nearly 7 billion people are going to die. I mean, what kind of Jesus is that anyway? They don't actually believe that, is what people will say. Do you think they actually believe it and want it to happen? Are you saying that 28 to 34% of our military can't wait for 7 billion people to die?
The simple answer is affirmative. This exists. It is terrifying. I changed my entire life. My family changed their life. Our clients have changed their lives. And if I could just throw it away and say, I'm going to go out to Maui, I'm going to sit on the beach and and have a few drinks and just learn to surf, I couldn't live with myself. This is something that must be stopped.
And maybe I'm being naive, but I still think that a majority of those guys don't think like, well, we want the 7 billion to die. Of course they don't want the 7 billion to die. They just think that's what's going to happen. And so we're trying to warn people, etc. What I'm worried about is the minority that think, wouldn't it be great if we could encourage that along? And they don't view it as like the 7 billion people dying. They view it as Jesus coming back. If we could just kind of push that process along. I think those are the scariest people on earth.
Well, let me correct it a little bit with you. The only people that we fight are dominionists. And to be a dominionist means that you're going to proselytize again in a time, place, or manner, just like, that violates the law, the Constitution, Department of Defense, directives, instructions, regulations. Just like if you want to protest at a soldier's funeral like the idiots at the Westboro Baptist Church, or you want to protest at an abortion clinic, you can do that in a time, place, and manner. If you violate the time, place, and manner stricture, we view you as a target of the foundation. And we try to move in seconds and minutes, not hours and days. And our clients will tell that to you. It is the people that we are fighting are convinced that we are in the very, very end of days. It's first and goal on the 1-inch yard line. Not the 1 yard line, the 1-inch yard line. Mm-hmm. It's first and goal. And they believe that we need to get Jewish hegemony in Israel, because that's ground zero. We got to do whatever we can to help Jesus along. And the nuclear weapons and the conflict has been preordained. We don't want people to die, but it was God and the other God, the Holy Spirit, and His Son Jesus, the Godhead. They've decreed this. And let's get Jesus needs our help. Whatever we can do to serve as an accelerant or lubricant to bring Him back here. Of course, it sounds insane. Remember, most of our clients are Christians, are saying this is not the message as we interpret it from Christ. But my job is not to interpret Christ's messages. Whether I believe, I was born and raised Jewish. Right now, I believe that that human beings know as much about the true nature of the universe and God as my attack-trained dogs know how my MasterCard works. I mean, that's what I think. Yeah, I love the bagels. I love not paying retail. I love Hanukkah. I still pray in Hebrew. I don't really buy into the theology, but that's not the point. The point is that those that do buy into it have command and control of weapons of mass destruction. Now, if you turn it around, the people that we are fighting, the Taliban, the Mujahideen, the Al-Qaeda, the insurrectionists, they do too. They have their playbook. They're crazy also. They're completely crazy. I mean, but if you ask the average American to explain the difference between a Shia and a Sunni, they can't do it. Ask the average member of Congress if they can do that. But so it is something that the reason I'm on this show is that it's likely that a large amounts of your audience may not be aware of this. But when we blast this out to members of the military, I'm hoping that others will become fans of TYT, and it's something that I think about all the time, and I can't help it.
Mikey, if you're at least 20% right, it's still incredibly dangerous, like world-changing dangerous.
Oh yeah. And Cenk, like I said before, it is an extraordinarily serious national security threat. And I know how it sounds, but we have the evidence to back it up.
All right. Well, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation was officially nominated again in 2013 for the Nobel Peace Prize. You're obviously a spirited fighter. And you're not going anywhere, that's for sure. No. And you're going to fight this to the end. And we appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it.
Honor and privilege. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.